Sounds good. Sounds good. We started a little early, so still just trying to get some people in here. I see Destiny, Edith, Justin. Can't see all of your guys' names. Some Laker fans. We got Jay in here. Thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate it. Hopefully you guys are in a nice spot with some nice food, getting ready to enjoy the Super Bowl.
James, how does this sound? Is this a little better? Can you hear me better now?
I can hear you. You sound kind of low,
I sound low? Okay.
but maybe that's I don't. I think you're. I think you're good. I think you're good.
I'll keep searching for a more quiet space.
Okay. No, I mean it's quiet. Maybe you just need to speak up a little bit. I don't know. But we're good to go. You're in a good spot. You don't hear any echo or anything on my end.
No, I don't hear anything.
Okay. Sounds good then. Yeah, we're looking at having Gilbert join us at maybe I think 110. For those who don't know, Gilbert Manzano was our Chargers beat writer this season. I believe he was in his like second or third season now, but he'll be joining us here. He's been kind of keeping a close eye on Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and the Bengals. Obviously, the Bengals were in staying in the hotel and practicing at UCLA. And then Kevin Modesty is actually in here. We can invite Kevin. We'll invite Kevin in here in a minute, and we'll get him set up, and we'll see if we can get him on to talk first. Kevin, I sent you an invite. You should just be able to accept it. It should be maybe on the bottom left for you, I believe, right above the microphone.
Well, James, while we're waiting,
Yeah.
let me set the scene for everybody. So
Okay.
I've been in SoFi Stadium for 3 hours now. I got here at 10 in the morning. I was
wow.
able to get dropped off on 10K, which is the north side of the stadium right across from the Forum. And so that worked out fairly well. I'm really glad I came early. I was here an hour before the doors actually opened. So doors open, and when I say doors, I mean fans could actually come on property at 11 in the morning. And so they've had, several areas where they're doing tailgating, and you can kind of hear some fans in the background right now. I'm sort of overlooking Park Lake right now. I can see that. There's an on-location area where probably more than 10,000 fans are going to go through for tailgating. I can see the NFL Network set as well.
Wow.
Even NBC, they have a great location with you'll see it on TV, this iconic backdrop. You probably already saw it, where they have the Super Bowl LVI logo, the Super Bowl 56 logo, and it
Yeah.
overlooks the water and the Park Lake and the SoFi Stadium and all that stuff. So, a lot of fans are actually coming into the stadium early. I'd say we probably maybe have 1 out of 4 fans are already inside the stadium. So there's a good amount already here, but a lot of people are just experiencing the tailgating here because it's not really like a Rams game where you can just, park your car and tailgate that way. Like there's official tailgating experiences that have taken up a fair amount of the parking here at SoFi Stadium. And so you sort of have to tailgate the way that the Super Bowl wants you to tailgate. Other than that, you're just going to do more of a roaming experience where you sort of just walk around and you see different exhibits and different experiences. But I'm sure everybody is going to want to be in here in their seats probably by at least 3 p.m. our time because kickoff is 3:30 p.m. and you don't want to be late for this one.
Yeah, John, and that was a good point. I saw some of your videos earlier in your coverage, and I like what I've seen so far, and I had forgotten that you were going to try and get a ride out there because after the first video that I saw, I was like super impressed. I was like, oh wow, John John? Where did John park? What does he know? What are the secrets? How did he get there and get settled in? Because you were taking video of the traffic and stuff, and I was like, oh man, John had to have gone there early, but I forgot you got dropped off. So again, a smart move by you. I've seen there's been some parking spaces out there where, of course, people are going to charge an arm and a leg, but
Yeah, I saw a
yeah,
sign for
it's
200 on the way here, and that was about
okay.
a mile away, and I'm sure it goes up a lot more than that. But I mean, it's such a beautiful day here in
Hmm.
SoFi Stadium. It's so clear. I mean, I can see the Palos Verdes Peninsula. I can even see Catalina Island off in the distance. That's how clear it is. And
Oh
if
wow.
I was in the proper position in the stadium, I'd be able to see downtown LA as well. So I mean, there's like 360-degree vista views here, and you can see everything right now. It's just such a great day.
Yeah, it's kind of, like I mentioned, I mean, you can't go wrong on a sunny day in California where it's like 80 something degrees. I think I saw on Kevin's tweet from just Inglewood and whatnot. And speaking of Kevin, obviously, well, first of all, we have Kyle and Tom and Edith and some others here. So shout out to you guys for being here and joining in on the space. And maybe we can get Kyle in here a little bit later if he wants to talk. But Kevin Modesty, our Rams beat writer, is here, and there's no one who's been to as many SoFi Stadium games when you combined what Gilbert has done for the Chargers and what Kevin has done with the Rams. Um, they've been to every home game in SoFi since it's opened, and that means when when there was no one in SoFi to when you have what should be a packed house today. So, Kevin, if you want to go ahead and unmute, we would definitely love to hear from you and kind of get what you got going on, or what do you have going on over there, Kevin? We saw the view, nice view, but what are your takeaways so far just from being one of those who had access to SoFi and watching the Rams when no one was allowed in, and now you're getting ready for what is again going to look like a packed house in Inglewood.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. It seems like so long ago that we were watching games with no fans. I can't even remember how weird it must have been, you know.
Right.
It feels normal again, at a, normal at a very modern, very different kind of stadium. But I, I would be one of those who give this place, extremely high marks. You walk in, I was walking in with Kyle Goon of our staff, who is
Hmm.
here for the first time, and he was, remarking on how it looks like a spaceship. Yeah, it is different from the outside, but inside, I think it's just a good, solid stadium built in a very vertical way, so that there are really no distant seats. Right? It's not like the
Hmm.
Coliseum or the Rose Bowl, where the higher seats are a long way from the field. As as someone with a bit of a fear of heights, I wouldn't want to sit in those upper deck seats here. But if I did, I know I'd have a close bird's eye view of the action.
Very nice, Kevin. And, so obviously what everyone is coming to the stadium to see is the game that's going to be taking place on the field, and that is the Rams and the Bengals. As someone who's covered the Rams the last couple seasons now, what are the keys to victory for the Rams? What do they need to do to stop what looks like a very young core, especially on that offense for the Bengals with quarterback Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase?
Right. Well, first of all, I think it's a game the Rams should win.
Hmm.
They will really kick themselves if they miss this chance to win a Super Bowl
Yeah.
with the advantage of home turf. Um, so, avoiding mistakes
Hmm.
certainly will come into it, and that's something that's always in the back of your mind when you're watching Matthew Stafford, because we saw periods this year where he, quite literally threw games away for them. But he's been so sharp lately that I don't think we anticipate a raft of interceptions today. You're right. Stopping a young and dangerous Bengals offense is a big key. If the Rams can slow down Joe Mixon
Hmm.
and force the Bengals into passing situations, especially if the Rams can jump in front early, then I think we could anticipate that the Rams pass rush, which ranks among the best in the league, is going to be able to take advantage of of the Bengals offensive line, which has given up the most sacks in the league this year. That said, despite all of those sacks, Joe Burrow has escapability, and he's not easily discouraged. And they won a playoff game where they gave up 9 sacks. So there's no single secret. But if you're looking for the biggest advantage, unit versus unit, that the Rams have in this game, it would be Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd going up against an iffy offensive line.
And you rattled off a lot of stars there for that Rams defense. But another one I want to talk about, and a lot of people are seeing this storyline a few different ways, right? But for me, a local from Altaloma High, and that's Eric Weddle, who comes out of retirement just in time for the postseason. Things work out the way they do. They say they're giving him the green dot. I guess he got moved up from the practice squad. Can you just tell us a little bit about Eric Weddle? Do you think he's an advantage for them or a disadvantage? Like, what is it? Because people kind of view this situation differently for whatever reason. But I mean, he led the team in tackles against the 49ers in that last game, right?
Yep, and it's an amazing story. We freak out when a guy is hurt and misses 2 days of practice. How could he possibly be ready for the game? He missed 2 years of practice.
Yeah.
And here he is in the Super Bowl, and you get no sense that the Rams have any concern about playing him a high percentage of snaps. He's the kind of guy who you would imagine that retirement doesn't look a lot different in terms of his workouts, maybe than his playing career did. So it's not a surprise that he's in shape, and he's been so engaged with the team, and so in contact with Sean McVay and no doubt a lot of players, that the mental part of it probably didn't take long to catch up either. But as he said, this wouldn't have happened, and it won't happen again if they hadn't lost both starting safeties, Jordan Fuller and Taylor Rapp, going into the playoffs. It created the need, and they said, why not? So the story of their secondary really this year has been one of having a half dozen guys, most of which you'd never heard of before, come and play major roles during periods of injury or COVID, or even lacking performance. So it kind of fits right in, but it is the most amazing of all of the out of nowhere performances to have somebody come off a 2-year retirement.
And I won't keep you too long. I know it's a busy day, obviously, for you with the Super Bowl 56 happening at SoFi Stadium. I just wanted to put out a quick reminder. Make sure you guys follow our coverage at ocregister.com. Everything from Kevin, Kyle, John, Gilbert, and everyone that's out there covering for us, all that stuff will be available at ocregister.com. Kevin, final question for you before we get you out of here. Who are maybe 1 or 2 players that could prove to be a difference maker or a game changer? Obviously, there's like a lot of stars on the Rams, for example, right? But is there someone that we aren't aware of that can maybe be that impact player? And also, I guess maybe another side question for you: what does the injury report look like? Any injury updates leading up to this game?
Yeah, well, the injuries first. They lost Tyler Higbee, their tight end, who's been their second, their number 2 passing target this year. So that's a big one. But Kendall Blanton has filled in a few times, and from undrafted rookie to now starting tight end in the Super Bowl is another of those stories, like we were talking about with Eric Weddle, out of nowhere, but apparently inspiring confidence in the coaches. So he's a guy who could be a quote unquote surprise contributor. But you think of like Cam Akers, who missed the entire regular season and came back for the final regular season game, and then the playoffs. Really hasn't had a game like he had at the end of the 2020 season yet, but this could be the day if the Rams choose to emphasize the running game, and they're going to have to some extent. So there's a couple of guys who I think could play a bigger role maybe than they have been playing, and trying to think. You could name any number of guys on defense, and among the the Troy Readers inside linebacker, who is another kind of out of nowhere guy who has played an important role, and then any of those many guys in the secondary. Nick Scott would as a safety would be an example of it, and they get back Taylor Rapp.
Mm-hmm.
Who missed 3 games with a concussion, but starting safety, he's back, assuming he'll play a lot, could start. He started all season. Overall, the injury situation looks pretty good other than Tyler Higbee.
Right.
They're Joe Noteboom, who's their kind of 6th man among the offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
He's out, but they were able to activate running back Darrell Henderson and nose tackle Sebastian Joseph Day from injured reserve. Don't know how much they'll play, but this is the first time the Rams will have their 3 running backs all in.
Oh, wow.
Along with Sony Michel. I don't know how you use three running backs too extensively, but we'll see. It gives them a lot of choices, and those guys have slightly different running styles and strengths. So no excuse if they can't get the running game going today.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And obviously, anything can happen, especially in big games like that. Like this is when maybe you see an early injury or something along those lines. So having some depth at a position like running back is never a bad thing. And with that being said, Kevin, thank you so much for hanging out with us, giving us your insight. And yeah, we look forward to your coverage, and we thank you for all the coverage that you've given us on the Rams this past season and for your years here at the Orange County Register. So again, thank you, Kevin, and hope you enjoy the game.
Thanks for what you're doing, and it'll be fun to see how this story turns out.
It'll be a story either way, and you're the one
Exactly.
who's going to have it. So looking forward to it.
All right. Good talking with you.
Good talking to you, Kevin. John, well, do you have anything you want to add? What's going on? We're going to get Kyle in here in a little bit. But what's going on, John? What are you seeing out there?
I think Kevin made some really good points about the running game, and I just wonder if Rams are willing to win this game in an unflashy way, because running the ball takes patience, and sometimes it's 3 yards, sometimes it's 2 yards. Every once in a while, it's 4 or 5, and then you break off one. But you really have to be patient to play the game that way. And the NFL is so quarterback driven. I wonder will they have the patience to really just run the ball if they can dominate the game that way. So that would kind of be my question is will they really, at the end of the game, will Stafford not have thrown the ball 40 times?
Yeah, no,
So that's kind of my question.
that's a good point too. But I mean, hey, if you want to talk about patience, I mean, you waited all season, you built all up to this moment. If you're not willing to have a little bit more patience at this point, what are you doing? But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's LA, and you want to be flashy, and you want to look cool, and we're getting a lot of that with Joe Burrow in that outfit. I don't know if you got a chance to see that, but that was something else. But I want to get Kyle in here and just kind of pick his brain a little bit. Kyle Goon, he's our Lakers reporter. Been covering them for a couple of seasons now here for the Orange County Register. But Kyle, do you want to go ahead and unmute your mic if you're there?
Yeah, I'm here. Up
Kyle,
in the
what's
press
going on,
box
man?
next to Jim Alexander, one of our columnists
Jim
extraordinaires.
Alexander.
He's gonna feed me everything he knows about football because I'm basically like, oh, where are the hoops? No, I mean it's an amazing day in SoFi. We're seeing some of the Bengals players warm up and do some plyos. I think we're seeing Aaron Donald stretching out in the corner, getting some help from a trainer, and some guys throwing footballs around in the middle of the field. I mean, SoFi Stadium is really popping today. I think it's going to be a good face on professional football in LA. The crowd here, seen a lot of Bengals fans. I'm surprised because I'm from Maryland, AFC North Country, and I don't think I've ever realize there's this many Bengals fans who exist. So
Right.
yeah, but obviously it's like a really exciting time for Cincinnati, and it seems
Yeah.
like a lot of folks made their way out west to enjoy the sunshine and the football game. So it's
I,
a pretty cool scene.
I think Kyle. I think what I read, and it just sounds outrageous, but I think it was like 33 years since the Bengals were last in the Super Bowl. I think that was like 1989, but so that was before I was even born. But yeah, I mean, hey, if you have a chance to come to California and your team hasn't played in 33 years, I don't blame them for wanting to be out here. But one thing that I did want to ask you, as someone who's covered the Lakers, you were in that NBA bubble, what feels like forever ago now, but I think it's only been like 2 years or so, if that. But how does what I don't even know how to ask this. What is it like? How different is it? Obviously, for
Oh
several
yeah,
reasons.
I mean
With
there's more
Yeah,
media in this press box than there were in people in Game 6
really?
against the Heat. So
Okay.
I mean that there was maybe like 25 to 30 media members
Hmm.
who were able to come into the bubble, and then friends and family. There were some friends and family who were sort of on the outer tier of the bubble who were able to
Hmm.
come in and join in the celebration of the championship. They kind of broke it when the Lakers went on the court, but in terms of scale, I mean, it's not comparable. And obviously, I mean, just even walking in, you get the feel. I mean, sort of like Kevin was saying earlier, you almost forget that it was ever not like this, right?
Yeah.
That events were kind of shut down to fans. Lots of people selling parking, lots of
Oh yeah.
people, trying to get some religious converts out on the street with
Of
mics.
course.
But just all kinds of like people, all kinds of scene, um, and it's just very cool because obviously we've written in different stories this week. I think Gilbert has written, you know, professional football in LA doesn't have this awesome reputation, right? I mean, the Lakers,
Right.
the Dodgers kind of dominate the scene, and they have championships, and they have this glamour element to them that adds to the overall attraction. And I think maybe the Rams are taking that step, and
Hmm.
being at home in the Super Bowl is definitely a part of that. Obviously, they got to win to make even more of a step, but they got big names with Matt Stafford, OBJ, Aaron Donald. I mean, they've got star power. They've got obviously a beautiful new home, and once if they can get that championship ring, I think that's a huge start and a huge boost to this franchise since coming back from St. Louis.
No, yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. And I think one, when like you said, when you are playing at SoFi Stadium and you're hosting the Super Bowl, you got the star power. You have everything that you want in an LA team, except for the championships, and they have that opportunity to do that today. And I think, again, I was looking back at the earliest Super Bowl I remember, and it was the Patriots and the Rams, and the Patriots were the underdog at the time, and you're like, oh, everyone's going for the Rams. I don't think the Patriots I'm going for the Patriots because the Patriots appear to be the underdog. Come to find out, you get the rise of Tom Brady and the Patriots. But I think if you're an LA fan, especially of the younger generation, you'll have this in your mind kind of going forward, especially if the Rams win. These are the games you need to win to build and establish your fan base, especially in LA, right? Like you need to win championships.
Well, first of all, you hurt my feelings by describing the earliest Super Bowl you can
Uh-oh.
remember.
Why is
So
that?
I'm starting to feel on the older side of things, James.
Do you want to
But
tell us you're not that much older than me, right?
I'm a little older than you, unfortunately.
Okay,
But
okay.
look, I mean, anyone who says LA is not a football town doesn't see
Yeah.
the bar and brunch scene on Sundays. I mean,
Hmm.
LA is an NFL town.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're a Rams town. I don't think they are right now. And
Exactly.
obviously that played out in an unflattering way 2 weeks ago in the NFC Championship with all the Niners fans here.
Hmm.
But I mean, people love football here. People watch football. There's a dedicated culture. I mean, there's great youth programs, great high schools.
Yep.
Quarterbacks come out of here all the time in Southern California,
That's right.
and it's a real hotbed. So I think just finding that finding that route, right? Finding that so tapping into that level of excitement that the town already has for the NFL is kind of key for the Rams and keeping themselves at the forefront of NFL conversations. That's what's going to drive interest in the team. And I'm really interested to see if they can kind of build off of all the momentum they've gotten by amassing the star power, by trading for Stafford, by building SoFi Stadium, which, thank goodness, this year people have gotten a chance to enjoy, right? So
Right.
it's all that builds into a sense that this franchise belongs here, and they're going to be at the top of the league and in those conversations for years to come.
Kyle, we're going to try and get Gilbert here in a minute, but before we let you go, I'd love to hear what are some things that you're looking forward to, or you're maybe still waiting to see, or what are you expecting to take away from this game today?
Oh, I just kind of want to see the scene and just this building kind of fill up and filled with energy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be a really exciting crowd, actually, because
Yeah.
you've got the LA fans, but you've also got the Bengals, as you mentioned, just those years of frustration, those years of mediocrity. I remember very well the Marvin Lewis years where there
Oh,
was sort of
yes.
one year where the Bengals didn't feel great about Marvin Lewis, and Marvin Lewis didn't feel great about staying in Cincinnati, but they extended him anyway because they're sort of like, well,
Right.
are we really going to do better? And they never really did better. So it was just they settled for a lot of years. The fans took that for a lot of years, and now they're kind of having this ecstasy of all this sudden success and driven by a quarterback that obviously the league can't stop talking about in Joe Burrow. I think there's something really exciting about that. Obviously, LA, after being the Super Bowl, 3 years ago, they're dying for some hardware too.
Mm-hmm.
I think the fans are going to be really into it, and just based off of the profile of these teams, I think it's going to be an exciting game.
Yeah, definitely. I'm hoping it's an exciting game, and obviously someone's going to have to go home without a ring or a trophy, but that's sports for you. Kyle, appreciate having you on. Looking forward to your coverage as well.
Thanks for
Remember,
having
thank
me.
you.
Yeah.
No problem at all. Thank you for being here. And again, make sure you guys go check out Kyle's work, not only for today's Super Bowl and what he's going to be doing covering the Super Bowl today, but also for what he does for us just day after day with the Los Angeles Lakers and his coverage with that. Speaking of people who report for us and cover for us, Gilbert Manzano is the Chargers beat writer for the Orange County Register, and you can find his work obviously as well at ocregister.com. But Gilbert has been spending some time and keeping an eye on the Cincinnati Bengals this past week, obviously with them being in town. Gilbert, you want to go ahead and unmute your mic?
Yeah, what's up, James and Johns? How are things going on this Twitter Spaces? I'm new here, so hopefully I'm doing it right.
No, you're doing it right. We can hear you well. You're sounding good and whatnot. So again, we're happy to have you here. And as you've had quite a busy week. I've been seeing a lot of your videos and whatnot, talking to different people, and not even just for football, but you've had Tony Khan and AEW and whatnot. And we'll save that conversation for a different day. But you've had Pat McAfee among others. What are some of the conversations that you've had this week, and what are you looking forward to with this game here today?
Yeah, James. That was kind of the wild part is being on Super Bowl Radio Row.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing NFL Hall of Famers, current NFL stars, actors, singers. Like when I was there, I think on Thursday night, and I was on Radio Row, and out of nowhere I started hearing Wiz Khalifa singing "Black and Yellow, Black and Yellow." So
Oh,
it's like a concert there. Pat McAfee brought out Wiz Khalifa, so that was a nice little treat for I guess for being out there pretty late, but. It's wild because at one point, I had, Ron Rivera on the podcast. Check it out. Compas on the Beat. We had Michael Buffer come on. We saw, super agent Lee Steinberg. The list kept coming and going, but it was just crazy. Like at one point, you see Dak Prescott, and you look over at Russell Wilson over there, or you see Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. So there's a lot of quarterbacks, and then like one day it was like a bunch of running backs were out there, like legends, like Eric Dickerson, former Rams,
Barry Sanders.
Terrell Davis, Emmitt Smith. I'm like, man, I was a little starstruck being out there, but you know what? The thing I did notice from being out there for the full week, when the week started Monday, you heard people say, I think the Rams are too talented. The Rams are going to win, have a blowout, and then by Thursday, Friday, like, you know what? I believe in Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow he's nice. Joe Shiesty, Joe Burr.
Yeah.
So when it came to like the cool factor, like you know what, I like
Mhm.
the collective confidence between Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T Higgins, Joe Mixon, Trey Hendrickson, and what Zach Taylor has done. A couple years, even just last year when Joe Burrow,
Yeah.
tore his ACL, MCL, they were talking about firing Zach Taylor, the former quarterbacks coach for the Rams. So to kind of turn it around in 1 year with Joe Burrow and having people believe in them, because I think the 2 week lead up helped out the
Mhm.
Bengals because after the game where the Rams beat the 49ers, you start thinking, okay, no way that offensive line could hold up against Aaron
Right.
Donald. And then by the time Friday rolled around, Joe Burrow is pretty much the next Joe name is Joe
Yeah.
Montana. So it's kind of a wild transformation for the 2 weeks.
No doubt about it. If there's anyone that helped their brand more than anything, I feel this week, or has been able to up their stock in that regard, I think Joe Burrow has definitely been the one. Did you get a chance to see his outfit today? It's kind of outrageous.
Yeah, I did, and I'm not surprised at all. He had the nice hat with the gray and black stripes. So,
Hmm.
when you come, like, what did Deion Sanders say? When you look good, you play good.
That's
So,
right. That's
so if
right.
you're into sports gambling, the way Joe Burrow came in, throw your money on the Bengals, probably.
There you go. Gilbert, as someone who's covered the NFL for a good number of years, I believe you were covering the Raiders a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. Were you covering the Raiders in Vegas?
Yeah, I
Not in
covered
Vegas. Yeah.
I was working for the Las Vegas Review Journal, and
Okay.
I was in that awkward transition from
That's
Oakland to
right.
Las Vegas. So I was covering the Raiders from Las Vegas where they were living in Oakland. So that was a little kind of wild to see. And I'm kind of going through that a little bit with the Chargers because when I
Hmm.
came to the Chargers, they came from San Diego. So it's kind of that awkward transition. So,
That's right. I didn't think
so
about that.
it was pretty. Actually, now you kind of ask me about kind of my, I was raised in Los Angeles. I grew up in
Hmm.
Pasadena. To be exact, you guys know where Pasadena is. When you talk to
Yeah.
people, I'm always like Pasadena, the Rose
Yeah.
Bowl, to, to,
Great.
to explain it. But it's just kind of a little surreal that I'm here covering a Super Bowl in
Hmm.
my hometown when there was no teams when I was growing up, and that's kind of the wild thing you see is like you see a lot of fans from all over the place. But now to have the NFL back, two teams, and to host the big game here has been kind of cool to soak it in. I've only been here for like an hour. I should have got here a little
Right.
earlier, but it was so chaotic. But now that I'm standing here talking to you guys in a more kind of calm place, I'm like, wow, it's pretty cool to be here in LA for a Super Bowl.
Well, we're definitely happy to have you there, Gilbert. But so using that NFL experience that you have from covering, both the Chargers and the Raiders, and you mentioned Zach Taylor and the fact that he was um, someone who has covered or someone who had worked with Sean McVay and the Rams. He was on that staff. How do you think that may be a benefit to Zach Taylor, having worked closely with McVay and maybe knowing some of he knows more about McVay than maybe McVay knows about Taylor, because obviously McVay was the head coach. Is there any advantage you think to that?
I would say maybe not much because
Okay,
they went through a transformation with Matthew Stafford from Jared
that's
Goff,
right.
the
Mm-hmm.
Todd Gurley days to Matthew Stafford. Like, you know, that's kind of the one thing that I noticed in the NFC title game between Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. Like, great coaches and everything playing the NFC title game, but what they did is they wanted to revamp their offenses because you got to keep up in the NFL, and usually those guys are ahead of the game, and that's why Kyle Shanahan drafted Trey Lance, and that's why Sean McVay went after Matthew Stafford, and it paid off for the Rams going all in. So I think in terms of that point, it's going to be different. Cooper Kupp has really, changed his game from being a really good receiver to an elite receiver. They added Odell Beckham, and obviously the defense is a little different with Von Miller. I'm not sure if Jalen Ramsey was around yet. The Zach Taylor years, I'm blanking.
Um,
Maybe
I
not.
don't think he, I don't think he I don't think he was because
Okay.
I think I covered some of the preseason stuff for the Rams. I think before for the season they did go to the Super Bowl, and Ramsey I don't think was
Yeah.
there yet. At least
Yeah.
he wasn't early on.
Yeah, I think it was a 2019 year, and Zach
Yeah.
Taylor has been there since 2019. So that kind of shows you right there the roster
Hmm.
is different. But the one thing I think that might be an advantage for Sean McVay, he might know the game manager of Sean
That's
McVay,
right.
when he's going for the timeout, when he's going to call a challenge, when he's going to go for on fourth down. I think those tendencies as a head coach, as a manager, and deciding things, I think that might be an advantage of Zach Taylor. And I think the other way around, maybe Sean didn't see all that, or maybe he did in practice. I don't know how he was letting them run the practices. Maybe Sean McVay let all these guys, Matt LaFleur, Brandon Staley, Zach Taylor, run the team for a little bit because he has a lot of head
Right.
coaches over there. That tree is crazy. It's loaded right now. So I don't know. it might go both ways. But I think in terms of kind of scheme and preparing for the players, it's going to be totally drastic because the rosters are so different now.
Yeah, I think like that's like the thing too. I think as soon as the Bengals and Zach Taylor made it to, advance to the Super Bowl, I think they started saying immediately, wow, Sean McVay, I think, has had now more coaches from his tree get to the Super Bowl than Bill Belichick has, right?
Yeah.
And both these guys are pretty young, and you got that young Bengals team. Do you think this stage is going to be too big for guys like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, despite the fact that, it was only like 2 years ago that they were playing in the college national championship game?
Yeah, they asked Zach Taylor that question. I think on Friday, like you don't have the experience. Like the Rams were in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. They have most of that experience. Obviously, Von Miller with the Broncos won a Super Bowl there, so
Mm-hmm.
this team has a lot of experience. And Joe Burrow and his crew are very young, but Zach Taylor said, you know what? I know it's not the same game, but these guys play in national championships.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow won a title. T. Higgins, Clemson's won a championship. Jamar Chase was playing with Joe Burrow. So in terms of the kind of that big stage feeling, they kind of have some experience there. And I know Zach Taylor was trying to, maybe reach a little bit in terms of Super Bowl and the
Right.
national championship. But he's like, you know what? I see the confidence. These guys act like they belong here. They're not. That's why Jamar Chase was Offensive Rookie of the Year, because he when it comes to like the bigger stages, elevating your game, he does that at a rapid pace.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Joe Burrow. Like I'm a little disappointed Joe Burrow got hurt in his rookie year, because imagine Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow going for that Rookie of the Year award.
Oh yeah,
back
what a
to
race
back.
that would have been.
It would have been a fun race. So Joe Burrow came in quickly. T. Higgins came in quickly. You still have Joe Mixon, and then that defense has a lot of experience. They went in free agency and got a Trey Hendrickson, got a Eli Apple, who likes to talk trash.
Yes, he does.
So they got a lot of good players on defense, and they shut down Patrick Mahomes in the second half. That mighty Chiefs offense to 3 points. So yeah, maybe they don't have a lot of experience in the Super Bowl stage, but they're confident and they have a lot of experience in the college game as well.
And I think that confidence is going to work to their advantage. I mean, if you're coming off of a win in that in the AFC Championship game, beating a team like the Chiefs that had just been to the Super Bowl. I think even was it the last 2 years, or at least last year? I'm blanking, but
2019.
With 2019, yeah. So you have Patrick Mahomes and those guys who have that Super Bowl experience, and they that was kind of a good test. It's not like they advanced beating a cupcake team, right? So I think we kind of know where they're at, and again, if that offensive line can kind of keep Burrow upright, I think they'll have a good chance in this game. But there's a guy that you mentioned in a matchup that I want to kind of get your thoughts on and see what you think about it. But you mentioned Eli Apple and what he'll have to do against some of those receivers for the Rams. How do you think that the Bengals defense is going to stack up against guys like Cooper Kupp and OBJ?
Yeah, I wasn't there for the soundbite, but he had a juicy one saying, Zach Taylor, let me shadow OBJ. I know his tendencies from our days with the New York Giants. So
that's right.
You know the way Eli Apple is stirring the pot, pretty much calling out the Giants and the Saints fan base and saying they're not real fans, that he's happy over here with the Bengals. The grass is green on the other side. But he wants to challenge, with Odell Beckham. But, it's not just Odell. What are you going to do with Cooper Kupp?
That's right.
But the thing with the Bengals, they have a nice kind of secondary with Von Bell and Jesse Bates. So that's a good secondary. And okay, I'm gonna keep it real. I'm not gonna say maybe Cooper Kupp is gonna get away from these cornerbacks. So it's up to the safeties to limit the big plays. When Cooper Kupp is getting that first down, you don't make it go from a 5-yarder to a 20-yarder. So that's gonna be key for the safeties to be on point, because I like the confidence of Eli Apple, but OBJ and Cooper Kupp they're gonna get their catches regardless of how confident you are or not.
No, that's absolutely right. And you have a guy like Cooper Kupp, who was named the Offensive Player of the Year just this past week at the NFL Awards, and was also, he led all three major categories in receiving, was the Triple Crown guy in that regard. So, yeah, no, and just flipping it on the other side there, when you have Jalen Ramsey going up against Jamar Chase, and a lot of people are kind of talking about that matchup as well. Do you have any thoughts or insight on that?
Yeah, that's pretty much the main event in terms of one-on-one matchups. Jamar Chase, Jalen Ramsey, and Jalen Ramsey is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, but you know, hopefully he's not listening to his Twitter Spaces. He's getting ready for the game,
Right.
but he's had some lapses. He got burned in that Buccaneers game, that big touchdown on Mike Evans, Tom Brady, and that was Tom Brady's potentially last touchdown of his career. We'll see if he comes back.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but for the most part, though, Jalen's usually on point. That's why they don't throw his way. But the way that you see Joe Burrow, loving feeding Jamar Chase, his boy from the LSU days, he's not going to shy away from that matchup. Even if Ramsey does shadow, because he plays all over. He's one of these star DBs where he goes from the slot to the outside. Heck, even a pass rusher at times. So if that's what Sean McVay wants to do, wherever, if that's what Sean McVay and Martin Blanket, Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator for the Rams,
Right.
he wants to shadow Jamar Chase. Jalen Ramsey is more than capable, but that kind of puts an island for the Eli Apple, the other matchup as well. But we'll see. It's a marquee matchup between those guys, Jamar Chase and Jalen Ramsey. But I am very curious to see if he shadows or not. But if you take away Jamar Chase, guys like T. Higgins will at least step up. Don't count out Joe Mixon in terms of the screen game, dump balls for big gains. So we'll see, because Joe Burrow, he likes Jamar Chase, but he likes to spread the ball around. I'm blanking on the tight end's name, CJ.
I couldn't even if I knew the last name, I couldn't tell you. But
he's a character, by the way. I love hearing him talk in the press conferences.
And that was something I was going to ask you too, just to kind of before we let you go here, because I know it's going to be a busy day for you. But just the injury report, and how are they looking health wise on the Cincinnati side? And you talked about the tight end there, and it looks like he's going to try and give it a go, but maybe on a pitch count.
Yeah, that could be the thing. I think we'll get the injury report in about 20 minutes here, but it sounds like he's going to go. CJ, for the most part, this Bengals team is healthy, and when you're playing especially on offense, you face an Aaron Donald and Von Miller and the rest of the gang. You better be healthy,
right?
Because that offensive line, like you mentioned earlier, James, could be an issue for this Bengals team. But we'll see. For the most part, they're healthy. They have all their big guns, and when you're going into a big Super Bowl matchup that feels like a big fight in Vegas, you want to have the best go against the best, and I think that's what we're going to have today between the Rams and the Bengals.
Good stuff from you, Gilbert. We'll get you out of here. Again, a busy day for you, and thank you for all that you do covering the NFL and this Super Bowl. A busy week and a great week with your coverage. So thank you again, Gilbert.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you too for putting it on this Twitter Spaces. I want to do it more again.
Hey, we'll definitely get some more going on. We got a lot of different things to talk about. And again, you have a good one. And for
Thank you,
those of
James.
you, again, thank you guys all for being here. We're not done quite yet. We got Todd Harmonson here. We got Jim Alexander. I'll get Jim in here next. I told him he'd be up next. I do want to check in with John first while we get Jim set up. But again, as we get John back in here, I just want to have a reminder. There's a few pinned tweets on the top of this space where you can find all of our coverage at ocregister.com. Make sure you go ahead, check that out. We've got a lot of our beat writers in here. Make sure you go ahead and you give them a follow as well. John, what's going on? What are you seeing out at SoFi? Any updates? Anything noteworthy?
Yeah, I really love everything Gilbert had to say. I think he made some really great points about just the personalities that we've been able to experience with the Super Bowl. I think one of the smartest things the NFL ever did was to give us 2 weeks in between the AFC, NFC Championships games and then the Super Bowl, because it just allows us time to get that Pro Bowl in, but then really soak in the Super Bowl into whatever community it's coming into. And oftentimes, it's like the first time it's been there in so long, or the first time ever. Like, it's the first time it's ever been at SoFi Stadium. And so that makes, such a big difference. And so right now I'm sitting in the 500 level where my seat is. They have 2 different sections. They have like a press box area, then they have an auxiliary area. And so I'm in like an open air part where I can just see like everything. And one thing that I don't think a lot of people realize about SoFi Stadium is that every seat has, I would say, a really good view of the field, and that is a lot to do with its location. SoFi Stadium is about 3 to 4 miles away from LAX, and it was so close to LAX that they had to build this stadium under ground level. So they had to dig about 100 feet below ground level. They moved millions of tons of metric dirt. And
Yeah.
that means that this stadium, like, everybody looks down upon the field, if that makes sense. Like,
No, it
nobody's
does.
really truly at field level except those field suites. And so, like, if you have the opportunity to be inside this stadium for this game, you will see the action. It doesn't matter if you're sitting all the way at the top or if you're
Right.
sitting at the bottom. Honestly, I feel like you probably have a better view from up here because you really have that true, bird's eye view. And so, I think it's great. Another thing that I just did while Gilbert was talking, I took the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to work on a story that I'm hoping that we can get published before
Okay.
the Super Bowl. So check this out. I'll tell everybody in this room, and then you'll be able to read the story in a little bit. Is that on Friday, a team that I covered down in Long Beach for the Press Telegram, the Long Beach Poly High School team, they
Mm-hmm.
actually were the scout team for NBC on Friday. And so
Oh,
what they
wow.
did was they spent the week learning the Bengals plays, the Rams plays, and then they had an all-access experience on Friday where they got to run out the tunnels to simulate that because the
Oh,
NBC
wow.
production team, they need practice for this.
Yeah.
They can't just know like how it's going to look when somebody runs out the tunnel or how it's going to look when Joe Burrow throws Jamar Chase the screen pass, which we all know is going to come at some point in this game. They actually had Polly run through those plays so that production knows what they're looking for, and then also it helps the coverage team of Tony Dungy and
Mm-hmm.
Mike Tirico and Drew Brees. It helps them actually like visually see like this is how these plays are going to look on this field because it's totally different. Like, yeah, we have plays. We know how the Rams look on this field, but we don't know how the Bengals look on this field playing against the Rams.
You know what? That's kind of an interesting point because, like, so I was, well, the day before the Holiday Bowl, I was in San Diego, and when UCLA was supposed to be playing NC State, and I was actually there for the coaches' press conference, and then they kind of had the media or the press box open for us. And so while I was sitting there, kind of writing up my advance for the next day's game, um, I did kind of see the TV network kind of preparing and going through it, but it's kind of interesting that they just kind of went about it without, a team or anything. So that's kind of an interesting perspective. But obviously, too, it makes sense though as well when all the different camera angles they're going to have, all the different. I'm
Yeah,
sure there's cameras there that are specifically for their streaming or their online coverage. So there's so
right.
much stuff that goes into it that I'm sure, yeah, having some sort of resemblance of a team in some different situations and scenarios definitely can help out. So yeah, no, that's a great point.
Yeah, and then anybody who's familiar with Long Beach Poly, they know they have this like pipeline to the NFL. They almost have 60 players in the school's history that have played in the NFL. They have
Right?
current active players as well, and lots of Pro Bowlers and Super Bowl champions like Willie McGinnis and people like that. And this year they'll probably have a first round pick in Matt Corral. So like, it's
Hmm.
just there's a connection. Juju Schuster-Smith. So
Yep.
like, oftentimes, you know, there's going to be some Poly player playing on Sunday Night Football. And that just continues to establish a connection they have with them. And so I think that's how they cultivated that relationship to have them participate in that once in a lifetime experience. And between you and me, there's probably a Poly player who is in high school right now that had that experience in high school that maybe
That's right.
5 to 6 years from now, maybe playing on this field in the NFL. So that's the really cool thing about it.
No, that's a good point, and I'm sure that might be part of the story that we hear. And like I was talking to Kyle about that earlier, right? Is like you're gonna have so many of the next generation as they're, a lot of people before we had teams in LA, were just fans of whatever teams their parents were fans of, whether it was the Raiders or maybe even the Bengals, but the 49ers or the Cowboys or the Eagles. But, I think having those memories and having those, a team like the Long Beach Poly team, that's something they'll be able to tell their children, like, hey, yeah, I remember doing that and the Rams won that game and now we're Rams fans and yada yada yada. There's so much that goes into it, and I think that's a good point by you, and I think this game is just, and I think as with every Super Bowl is an opportunity for teams to grow and expand their fan base. I'm trying to get Jim Alexander in here, but I'm not sure if the invite is going through. John, I sent you a co-host invite. see if you can accept that. You should be able to do that on the bottom left of your screen if you're still there. And if you can, maybe try and invite Jim yourself. I'm not sure if that was working or not. I think Jim left. He might be trying again. I also sent Todd a invite too. Todd, it looks like it worked for you, so we'll go in here and we'll get you going. Todd, thank you for joining us. How are you doing, and what are you seeing out there from SoFi?
I'm doing great, thanks. And are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you
Okay.
perfect. You sound good. I'm sure you look good too.
Well, we'll see about that. But audio is a beautiful medium for some of us.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's the crowd's starting to trickle in, and it's pretty cool. You do see a decent amount of orange and black out there, which is kind of interesting. But I think Rams fans are probably enjoying their time and working their way in.
Right.
Yeah, mainly I'm just seeing something that's what I wrote about it this week a little bit was this is the culmination of such a long journey. So it's kind of amazing to me to see this all coming together.
Awesome. Have you been in SoFi Stadium before, or is this your first
No,
experience?
I've been here a couple times. I covered the NFC Championship game for us, and
Okay, that's right.
then before that for the Rolling Stones. But no, good. It's a great environment for football. I loved it.
What as someone who's probably spent a significant amount of time in Southern California, how nice is it to have not one but two NFL teams back here in LA and in a brand new stadium in SoFi Stadium to kind of help usher this in and bring business and the Super Bowl and everything NFL back to the LA area?
Well, to me, it's really bizarre. So I was hired at the Orange County Register way back in 1998 to cover the business of trying to bring an NFL team back to the region. The Rams and Raiders had left in following the '94 season, and so we knew there was always going to be an effort to get the NFL back here, and that meant going to league owners meetings all over the place. All the places that people who were trying to land a team for the region were trying to make their case. All the way to early 2000 when LA was very close to landing an expansion team. But that expansion team is known as the Houston Texans. The LA bid lost out at the last second. So, this has been a wild ride, considering 23 plus years ago I was hired to cover this topic, and now here you've got the Palace that Stan Kroenke built, and you have the Rams playing a home game for the Super Bowl. I think it's huge for the region. It's certainly great for the NFL. I thought it was. It hit some people hard recently that the NFL abandoning this area, or basically Al Davis and George Frontiere doing it, left this area without a team for a generation plus, and you had a lot of kids who grew up not caring about the NFL or caring about somebody else's team. Now you have a bunch of kids who can care about the Rams and the Chargers, and my guess is this elevates the Rams a bit right now. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point, and I think I've kind of mentioned or alluded to that a few times during this show. Like, I think that NFC Championship game, right? I think that alone was a big kind of stepping stone, and for fans to at least start getting, or the LA fans to get invested in a team, or if they needed a team for the Super Bowl, being able to watch that primetime game and having the Rams kind of come out on top after, what was it, like losing the last 6 against the 49ers, to come out on top, find their way into the Super Bowl, and I think not officially the home team, but practically the home team.
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, they're in their regular locker room. They're on the side of the stadium that they usually are. They're just wearing light jerseys today.
You think that benefits them, or? I mean, I think it would only have to benefit them, right? Being able to sleep in your own bed, be in your own team hotel that you're used
practice
to,
at your own facility,
like, doing everything that you've done.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, there's so much of a routine when it comes to the NFL, and when teams are taken out of it, that's where things can go a little weird. This is what they know. They had to do a little bit extra time talking to reporters this week, and there's some festivities, but most of it is just a regular practice week for them. And they did it at their place. They are warming up right now on the field that they know, are getting dressed in their locker room. How can that not be an advantage? It certainly was for Tampa last year, right? And I think we saw that. So it seems like it might be a good thing for them.
That I think that's a good point. And obviously, like the Bengals, obviously, that half of your schedule is going to be on the road, so it's not totally strange to it's just the magnitude of the
Yeah.
game. Like you said, more media and whatnot. But what are some things you're maybe expecting to see come out of this game? Any matchups in particular that may interest you? Obviously, we talked about Ramsey and Chase being one of those, but is there any other of those matchups?
Well, the
that
big
stick
thing for
out to
me
you?
is the Rams D-line against what I think is a mediocre at best Bengals offensive line. And Joe Burrow was sacked 51 times this year. There's only so much that you can take, and that was not playing Aaron Donald.
Right, that's right.
The last time I covered a Super Bowl, I saw a guy named Von Miller dominate Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers and become the MVP. And I think Von Miller knows how to get up for a big game. I'd expect he's going to be in Burrow's face today too. So, I think if the Rams defense can have its way, the way it can by applying a lot of pressure, that's going to be a key. Burrow, great, and I think he's going to be one of the best. He's still in his second season. He can fluster him.
That's the impressive part.
Yeah, but I also think you can fluster him a little bit. We'll see.
He won't. He wouldn't admit that even after the fact. Maybe he wouldn't even admit that he gets flustered because he's been on the very Joe Cool train here lately. But do you think the stage could potentially be too big for some of these guys? Because it's a very young core over there on Cincinnati with guys who are two years removed from being in the national championship game for LSU.
Yeah, it's a big stage for anybody. Like I said, I saw Cam Newton come into Super Bowl 50, just tearing up the league, and it was too big of a moment for him at that point. He really had a bad game. Part of that, like I said, was Von Miller, but he just didn't live up to what everybody thought he would do at that time. There have been other players who aren't able to completely do it. Now, Burrow might prove us all wrong and just say, no, he's already there. But it's tough. Not many guys can. You look back at early in, there's a guy named Tom Brady that played in the NFL for a little while.
Yep.
And he won a Super Bowl early on. But that was, some of it was him. A lot of it was having to rely on the rest of the team. Later on, he became more of the guy who led the way in those.
Yeah.
So I think Burrow's going to need the rest of his team to step up. If he gets Joe Mixon just running like crazy, and their defense can frustrate Stafford, then maybe Burrow doesn't have to do a lot to win this game.
No doubt about it. And actually, again, glad that you mentioned that, because I was talking to Kyle about that a little bit earlier. One of the earliest Super Bowls I remember was that Rams-Patriots, and the Rams appeared to be the favorite. And everyone was kind of counting out, or at least my understanding from back in the day was, we'll see about this Patriots team or this quarterback and how they're going to play this whole situation out. And they come out and they win that game, And I think, at least in my opinion, that was a bit of an underdog getting the best of Goliath there. But
there were also a lot of
maybe
St. Louis Rams fans who would still question the part of the Patriots had tapes of Rams practices during that time, which was proved, and how that might have affected the Super Bowl, because that Rams offense was amazing. I covered the prior to Super Bowl 50, my last Super Bowl before that was Super Bowl 34, when the Rams won their only championship. As painful it is for that, for LA Rams fans to admit it, they did win one in St. Louis, and saw one of the best offenses I've ever seen in the NFL. In a tough game, but the greatest show on turf was pretty amazing that day.
We'll see how things play out. I for one, I'm kind of surprised to see Cincinnati in the Super Bowl, and it's still kind of something that I haven't really I don't want to say come to terms with, but it's just like, back from when I was in high school, I remember the Rams. I mean, the Bengals were nowhere near Super Bowl level.
Yeah, they're the
And I
Bungles.
think it was Kyle. They were the Bungles. That's right. And I think Kyle was the one who mentioned, the whole Marvin Lewis times, and they wanted Marvin out, and Marvin wanted out, and they wanted Marvin out, but he kept coming back. And so the Bengals have come a long way, and we'll see if they can get the job done. Obviously, LA fans would like to see the Rams come out on top and celebrate in front of some of the home fans. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. And Todd, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate having you here and everything that you do for the Orange County Register. You can follow Todd. Just click on his name and give him a follow, just like you can with any and all of our reporters. But you can follow and see his work at ocregister.com, along with the rest of our Super Bowl coverage. Again, thank you, Todd, and we'll hope to see you pretty soon.
Definitely. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. John, you want to get back in here and let's see what you have going on? Jim, trying to get you in here. Let me know if you can get on your phone, and we'll try and get you in here before we kind of close up the show for today. But a lot of great stuff.
I just wanted to say thank
you
for everything putting this together. I'm about to go back down to the press room and talk to some of our colleagues and have them participate in Twitter coverage of LA Daily News. So just check us out on there, LA Daily News. That's where I'm doing my digital coverage of this whole event. I'm going to try to interview some of our colleagues and get their perspective before the game. And we'll be doing some live tweeting from there as well. So I'm just really excited. And I was able to get that Poly story in. So look for that very soon on ocregister.com.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and I saw that story was, I think, in the works of getting set up there. So we're gonna have that Long Beach Poly up for you, that story up for you here pretty soon. I think we're gonna try and get Jim Alexander on here in a minute, but I would kind of curious to see. Let's see who else is here. I think we're gonna try. Let's see. We'll try and get Jim in here. Jim, send me a message. Let me know if you are going to try your phone. We have, let's see. We'll give another minute here. But yeah, it should be, we have a lot of good stuff going on, and I'm curious to hear from you guys as well about some of the things that you have going on. I think we have a request here from Jim. Let me know if you are getting this invite here. Michael, I'll get you in here for a minute. Do you have a question or a thought on just the Super Bowl? It looks like you're still connecting, but when you get a moment here, we'd love to hear from you.
Check 1, 2. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Michael. What's going on?
Hey, let's talk about the Rams-Bengals scenario. It's a 4-point underdog, the Bengals. 48.5, the overs and unders. And a lot of people expect a Rams slaughter, a 40-7 win. But that would still be the unders. Most people are betting overs that 48.5. Now, for the Bengals to be able to pull this off, they're going to have to keep the game close, 7-7, 14-7, 21-21, and then a field goal. Now, if the Rams do win 24-21, that is still the unders at under 48. So Vegas versus the Rams football. In my opinion, I don't think the Bengals even belong on the same football field as the Los Angeles Rams. But both teams, in one sense, this is for their first Super Bowl. The Bengals have not won a Super Bowl, and the Los Angeles Rams, the only Rams victory in a Super Bowl as the St. Louis Rams. So it's going to be interesting to see, will the Rams destroy or slaughter the Bengals, or can the Bengals keep this game close? Now, it could be an Aaron Donald sack fest during this contest
Mm-hmm.
and Jalen Ramsey, but will Cam Akers suffer from fumbleitis? That's going to be also a question. And will the refs keep this game close by making errors? In my opinion, if the Rams stay disciplined, there's really no way the Bengals could win this game. But the Bengals did beat the Chiefs, so it's going to be
Yeah.
real. If the offense, Higgins and Mixon, the running back for the Bengals, they're going to have to maintain that field position by not allowing the Rams to have the football, by staying on the field and keeping the defense on the field. But that's going to be tough with Donald and Ramsey because Donald might be the dominant force in this game.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to come down to what Aaron Donald and that defensive line can do to put some pressure. And I think they'll have the ability to do that because one of the weakest points, I believe, as you mentioned, is the suspect offensive line for the Bengals. But so if Aaron Donald can introduce himself pretty early on to Joe Burrow and rattle him a little bit, I think the Bengals will be in trouble. But yeah, I think they're going to have to look to try and keep this game pretty close and pretty competitive and not fall too far behind. But, we saw what they were able to do there against the Chiefs. I think they were down. It was almost like, felt like 21-0 at one point. And they were able to kind of bounce back and make that a game. But yeah, thank you for your thoughts on that, Michael. We're gonna get Jim Alexander in here, who's from SoFi Stadium, and share his thoughts before we kind of wrap things up. But again, thank you for jumping in and helping us out and giving your thoughts, Michael. Jim, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Doing well, getting ready for the big game. Just excited as always. Anytime there's a game going on in SoCal, obviously me and you. Last time I think I saw you was out there at the Coliseum for USC UCLA, and should have ran into you at the Holiday Bowl for UCLA and NC State. But we all know how that played out. But what are your thoughts? What are you looking forward to from today's game, Jim?
Well, I will give you my brief X's and O's analysis because that's not my strong suit, as anyone who reads me probably understands. But I think if there were a key factor, earlier in the week, I would have said it would have been the matchup between Jalen Ramsey and Jamar Chase. But I think it's going to come down to the running game, and in particular, it's going to come to the Bengals' Joe Mixon. Because if he can pound it on the ground and the Bengals can do to the Rams what the 49ers were doing to the Rams during the season and have some of those long drives and loosen them up for the pass, I think it will be a lot more competitive than most of the pundits are suspecting.
Yeah, no, that's kind of a good point, and I'm guilty of that too. I always kind of refer to especially with the Bengals offense, it's Joe Burrow, it's Jamar Chase, there's Higgins, there's their tight end CJ. There's so many guys, but it's like don't sleep on Mixon now because Mixon has been doing his thing all year. So I think he's definitely a player to watch, and we'll see how they utilize him in order to try and keep that Rams defense honest.
Let me interrupt. I mean, that probably works the other way too, because if the Rams get their running game going, then and we've seen that all season, it makes Stafford more effective, and it makes those receivers more effective. And and then is Kendall Blanton going to be able to do Tyler Higbee's job? I mean, there's some questions here that probably will be answered shortly after we begin, but that's that's the extent of my X's and O's.
No, I understand completely, and that's the thing too with X's and O's is like you can talk about X's and O's all you want, and the game can just go a totally different way from what anyone ever expected, right? And we can see the rise of a new star or just something we completely weren't expecting. Jim, you're based out of the IE as I am. One guy who stands out to me is Eric Weddle. A guy who just came out of retirement, has been out of the league for 2 years and rejoined the Rams to try and make a run here. Do you have any thoughts on Weddle and just on him coming back and getting that green dot and kind of being the man in charge for that secondary on the Rams side?
Well, I did get chewed out by a emailer that I didn't mention that Weddle was from Rancho Cucamonga or all that. So, mea culpa. But yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing the fact that this is his fourth game back. Okay. And they're trusting him with calling the defensive signals, and they're trusting him with basically captaining the defense. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, the guy's been retired for 2 years. He kept himself in impeccable shape. Obviously, I go back to when we were talking to Les Snead earlier in the week, and I mentioned it in the column, the fact that he mentioned to Snead that he'd been playing 5-on-5 basketball regularly. And Les said, if I went back home and I played 3-on-3, I wouldn't be able to get out of bed the next morning.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Right.
he kept himself in great shape, and he's smart enough to be able to pick up the concepts, even though the defense has changed a little bit. You've got different defensive coordinators from when he was there.
Yeah.
Because he played, he was playing Wade Phillips defense.
That's right.
And now he's playing Raheem Morris defense. And, it's not totally different, but there are some tweaks there. But I mean, the fact that he was able to pick it up almost from the start. And then he said, when we talked to him this week, I asked him how long he felt it took him to get back into a rhythm. He said 2 plays. He said he was just going the first couple of plays against Arizona in the wild card game. He was just going way too fast. And it's one of those things where the game slows down for you. And for him, he had to take a deep breath and realize, hey, you've done this before. You don't have to be anxious.
Yeah, and I think to his point, like I think it really showed, especially once he did get settled in, and it showed against the 49ers when believe it or not, I think he led the defense in tackles, right? And like you don't expect that from a guy who's been out of the league for 2 years, but I mean that's sports for you, right?
And he played every snap. That's what I found impressive. He played every defensive snap in that game.
And I think he was like really limited, I think, in the first game, right? It was like he was just kind of there. He was like a backup option.
He played
he did get in a little bit.
He played 19 snaps. He didn't have to play much in the second half because they had things pretty well in hand.
That's right.
And then he played most of the snaps against Tampa Bay and then played them all against San Francisco. So I would imagine that he'll play them all or as close to it as possible today.
And Jim, as someone who's been in Southern California for some time now, how things moved quickly here in LA. Just getting 2 Super Bowl teams, or getting 2 NFL teams, getting the Super Bowl, getting a new stadium. I mean, you still have the Coliseum and the Rose Bowl moving pretty strong and hosting the college teams. But just what are your thoughts on being able to have the NFL back here in SoCal, and obviously you cover the Chargers a little bit, but is all of this still kind of surprising and maybe even overwhelming just to see the NFL back the way that it is here in Southern California?
I think we've had enough time that we're used to it. I think that if you think about it, this is going to be a work in progress for a while because this area was without a team for 21 years, and people, grown-ups developed other loyalties. A whole generation of kids grew up without an NFL team here, so they probably root for the same team that their parents did. And it's interesting when we talked to Kevin Demoff this week, they're doing the same thing that the Clippers are doing in basketball. They are targeting the kids. They're going after the kids that are in elementary school or middle school right now. And this 2-week period with so much attention on this game and on the Rams, that's got to be an advantage because now the Rams are front of mind for everybody in this region, and all those kids, they're seeing all this Rams stuff, and they see Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp and Stafford and all these guys, and they're thinking that's my team. And it's very easy when you're a kid to root against the team that your parents root against.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. No matter how many times they try to put you in a Cowboys or a Ram or a Raiders jersey and all that stuff, but
and you'll love this. I mean, I always used to say that you'd have all these marriages where you'd have a UCLA alum and a USC alum getting married, and they have kids. And I always like to say, those kids are going to grow up rooting for Stanford or Cal.
Yeah,
Book it.
right. That's right. That's right. Before we let you go, just again, I think too. No, to your point, I think again, a guy I wrote about this week was Andrew Whitworth, and him being able to go into schools and a lot of the charitable work he's been able to do, and yeah, just really kind of the outreach I think has been pretty impressive on the Rams side and the NFL in general, and we'll see who turns into a Rams fan here, or heck, who might even become a Bengals fan after this.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
I think it's great that we have you out there, Jim. Is there anything that where are you at right now in the stadium? Was there anything that
I
caught
am
your
in the
eye as
main
you kind of
press. I
came
am
in?
in the main press box. Found a corner
Okay.
here that's sort of quiet. So
Yeah.
I will say this. I just saw something on Twitter. Somebody advertising a parking space for $1,000.
Oh Lord.
As I was coming up Prairie, as I was
Yeah.
coming down Prairie toward
Mm-hmm.
the stadium, the going rate seems to be $250 to $300
Oh
a few
man.
hours before game time. We'll see if it goes down as it gets closer to game time. But
Yeah.
it's a crazy scene here, and I think the one thing that we have to keep in mind when we're talking about the overall
Mm-hmm.
return of the NFL to Los Angeles is it was always going to take someone like Stan Kroenke who was willing to put his own money into a project.
Yep.
Because
Mm-hmm.
the edifices here that last, the stadiums and the arenas that have been the most successful, Dodger Stadium, privately built, the Forum,
Mm-hmm.
privately built, the arena formerly known as Staples Center, I'm not going to use its current corporate name, but that was privately built,
Right.
and this stadium, privately built. I mean, we've seen
That's a
over
good
and
point.
over that California voters have no stomach for public projects, so it was
Mm-hmm.
going to have to be privately built. So, maybe that's why it took 21 years, but the result is amazing. I mean, this is just a magnificent stadium. And if you've been here, I mean, I've been here a few times now, so you kind of
Mm-hmm.
take it for granted. But I mean, it's a massive project, and it's hardly finished. I mean, there's so much more to come on this campus.
Yep.
Yeah, and the argument about whether that's good or bad for Inglewood residents, that's an argument for another time. It's a
Yeah.
legitimate argument, but this is a magnificent stadium.
Hey, I'll admit I was out there for the NFL Honors Award show. I believe that was on Thursday, and just being out there and being on the campus a little bit, I got lost. I was lost. I was asking people for different directions on different things, and some people didn't know it. It's pretty overwhelming, but I mean, when it doesn't hurt to have a big facility like that where they able to host just about anything nowadays. But with that said, Jim, we'll get you out of here. We know it's a busy day. You have some things to write up and kind of keep your eye on. So looking forward to your coverage. As always, you do a great job, and it's a pleasure to always work with you and to have you here on the Twitter Spaces today.
No problem. My pleasure.
Thank you again, Jim. And again,
Take
yeah,
care.
we're going to be you take care as well, Jim. We're going to be wrapping up the show here. I want to thank all of you guys who stopped by and for those who stuck around for a long time. Luis, Edith, Ryan, is it Kenson, Jeff, so many of you. Thank you so much for all being here. Appreciate it. And again, hope you enjoy the Super Bowl and follow our coverage. And we're able to follow all of our reporters. You can go ahead and find all of our reporters, and you can find our link for all of our Super Bowl coverage. And if you ever want to come back later on, go to ocregister.com or go ahead and just click on the Twitter profile there that's hosting this space, and you'll be able to find everything you need regarding the Orange County Register, the LA Daily News, and so much more. Again, the Southern California News Group is made up of 11 different newspapers, and we cover a majority of Southern California, and we want to be the place you go to for all of your coverage. So again, thank you so much. Enjoy the game. I'll leave the space open just for a little bit longer so you guys can go ahead and navigate your way through, find some links, and do what you have to do. But again, thank you so much for joining us here today I appreciate it, and you have a good one.